complete. How is recording? I'm going to announce that. Three types of revolution period: solstice and equinox. That's it?
Yes, why we do not feel the motion? Rotation and revolution are the two chief motions of the earth. If we were to feel these motions, it would make life uncomfortable. Second point. The force of gravity keeps everything attached to the earth. This keeps all objects at rest with reference to the motion of the earth. Using this principle and Newton's first law of motion, which states that the body remains at a rest or uniform motion unless compelled to change that state by an external force acting on it. Scientists have proved that the earth rotates on its axis.
Okay, so rotation and revolution are the two chief motions of the earth. What is the difference between rotation and revolution? On its axis and in its orbit. Force of gravity keeps everything attached to the earth, keeps all objects at rest with reference to the motions of the earth. Using the principle and Newton's first law of motion. What is Newton's principle and first law of motion?
That
a body remains at rest
or uniform motion
unless
a force is active.
Yes, some external force has to act upon it. That's when it goes in motion. Like if you have a this thing lying here, it will stay over there unless and until, now this is because of the gravity and inclination. So if I do this, that's when it's going to move. Then now we come to solstices and equinoxes. This, I think, check in your textbook if you have it. This you don't know.
No, ma'am.
Check it out. No, you don't have.
In case
We can do in this one. How to make this more this the image bigger? Control. Another. Begin. हाँ जी. So, solstices and equinoxes. From the text, I will explain it. I'll show you one video. You have?
This? No. It's a mission of our.
It has, but it's written over.
Yes, on June 21st.
They've written all the same thing. The same. It's the same thing. So solstices and equinoxes. The lighted part of the earth is called the circle of illumination. Lighted part means you have one part which will have darkness and one which will have light. So that lit part is the illuminated part. So the circle of illumination. This circle moves with the apparent movement of the sun, so that only half of the earth faces the sun at any given point of time. Correct? It's always like that. Only half of the earth faces the sun at any point of time. Now solstices. You have solstices. There are two. Okay, one is on June 21st. Can you see here this June 21st? This one here. And then you have this December 21st. So these are the days of the solstice. And equinox are the other two, which is March 21st and September 21st. Here in this is given as 23rd. 23rd. So fine, 1 year, 30 is 21st March and 23rd September. In this they have given it as well. Okay. So solstice on June 21st. This. The earth is in the position where the north pole is tilted towards the sun. On this day, the sun is overhead at the Tropic of Cancer. This day is known as the summer solstice. The southern hemisphere, however, is tilted away from the sun and experiences winter. On December 23rd, that is the side opposite. On December 22nd, the southern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun, while the northern hemisphere is tilted away from it. While the northern hemisphere is tilted away from the sun. This day is known as the winter solstice. It is summer in the southern hemisphere and winter in the northern hemisphere. This solstice is all understood? Hey, to explain the solstice. I'll show you until. Sorry. The tilt of the axis. There you have the Tropic of Cancer, Equinox and South. So now if the sun is this side, okay, what is happening? You have direct rays falling on the Tropic of Cancer, or rather, one half will have light, the other half will have darkness. So this is the circle of illumination. Circle of illumination means that actually in this they've given it as the lit part is the circle of illumination, but actually the circle of illumination is that line which divides the lit part from the dark part. Now which would be the part which is lit? This side. So वो circle तो straight ही रहेगा, correct? What happened? What is he asking? What he asked?
Is there anyone on?
Why you want to do? So
It was us. It is us.
So you'll have one part which is lit, one part which will have darkness. So the part that will have darkness is this part. Why this line I have drawn straight?
Because it shows the line of sunlight and
Correct. That is not going to be tilted. Our axis is tilted. So now at this point, the north pole, okay, it is tilted towards the sun or away from the sun? Towards the sun. North pole sun के तरफ है या sun से दूर है? Sun के तरफ है. So it means the north pole is tilted towards the sun. So the northern hemisphere will have summer. Northern hemisphere will have what? Summer. How will the days be? Long. How will the nights be? Nights will be short. So which position is this? This position is that of the summer solstice. Okay. कौन सा वाला? June 21st वाला. Okay, where the sun is over the Tropic of Cancer. So this is of and why summer and why winter? It is on the basis of what it is in the northern hemisphere. Northern hemisphere में summer है. That position is known as summer solstice. Now, where winter solstice is concerned, the situation becomes the opposite when the earth is on the other side. Okay, other side means if now the this is like this, the sun, the earth has come on the other side, so you have the sun over here. So again the tilt remains the same. Your circle of illumination remains the same. This side will be lit. This side will be dark. So northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere. So in this case, southern hemisphere tilted towards the sun. Correct? Or I will tell you in the opposite way, the northern hemisphere away from it. Okay? North pole tilted away. North pole tilted, correct? Away from the sun. Northern hemisphere will have what? Winter. Days short. Nights no. Okay. Or and this is the position of winter solstice. Okay. Because in the northern hemisphere there is winter. Okay. Or if you are taking it with respect to the southern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere is tilted towards or away? Towards the sun. The southern hemisphere has winter, has summer, days are long, nights are short. Got this? Okay. Then equinox. I read this part. I didn't read it more than that. No. So solstice on June 21st, the sun is in the position. What are you writing? That you're drawing. Notes right afterwards. Now listen to your attention. You get time later. What are you doing? The homework or what?
No, drawing.
Okay, do it. Cheer में time. 4 what to do? अच्छा, that's the 7. But both the places sun is on the same side.
Yeah, I'll change the 4th.
But how? Put the sun on that side, in your margin. Explain summer solstice in last bench. Explain summer solstice. Solstice, this position. Explain this summer solstice.
Is the time when the sun reaches its highest or lowest.
We don't do that. Tell me what you have understood. Not understood. Huh? क्या समझा summer solstice position?
The southern part is tilted towards the sun. The northern pole
In the summer solstice, southern hemisphere is tilted away from us. You always tell in terms of northern hemisphere. You will okay. I'll show some video. Just 3 minutes.
I write a lot of essays for school, but I also write sales descriptions for my Etsy shop.
I use Grammarly on my work emails, Solstices and Equinox.
Every day you will be notified with it. Don't forget.
Autumn and winter. Autumn. Solstices. The summer solstice is referred to as the longest day and the shortest night of the year.
This is what small kids, which you all are not. देखो कौन सा देखना है? ये 12 मिनट वाला.
Hello everyone. In this video we're going to discuss equinox and solstice. Now these are very simple and very straightforward topics,
but in
but still there are so many students who find it.
it's ulta.
Yeah,
Mirror.
that's
नमस्कार दोस्तों, कैसे हैं आप लोग?
What is Britannica?
That thing. Let's see. Yeah.
Doesn't have sound.
It's
As it turns out, solstices and equinoxes are sort of opposites. We know that seasons are caused by Earth having a slight tilt on its axis. As Earth wobbles around the sun, different points of the Earth receive more or less sunlight throughout the year. If Earth wasn't tilted, the sun would just shine directly on the equator all year long, leaving us without seasons and wrecking everyone's summer plans. But we also wouldn't have solstices or equinoxes. Solstices designate the point where the sun's path in the sky is the farthest north or south from the equator, which occurs around the 20th and 21st of June and the 21st and 22nd of December. The summer solstice marks the beginning of summer and is the longest day of the year, just as the winter solstice marks the beginning of winter and is the shortest day of the year. But which solstice happens on which day depends on the hemisphere you live in. In the northern hemisphere, summer starts in June when the sun is beaming directly over the Tropic of
The sun's rays fall directly over the Tropic of Cancer, and our India is in the northern hemisphere.
Cancer, while winter starts in December when the sun shines down on the
Right? This way it is the opposite, and here you will have the this place like this, correct? It will be in this slant. So in this case, the rays fall directly on the Tropic of Capricorn.
Tropic of Capricorn. This is flipped for the southern hemisphere, which is why Australians associate the new year with summer fun. All right, so what about equinoxes? Well, that's simple. The equinoxes are when the sun is right over the equator, in between the two tropics. They occur around March 21st and September 23rd. And
Understood this equinox position, you all can see in your book also that small image. It's straight over the equator. Okay.
mark the beginning of spring or autumn. We call the beginning of spring the vernal equinox, while the beginning of autumn is, conveniently, the autumnal equinox. Again, which is which depends on the hemisphere, but during both equinoxes, day and night last the same amount of time. Here's a handy mnemonic device. Equi means equal, and nox means night, which tells you that the day and the night are of equal length. So at the end of the day, while solstices and equinoxes are related, they happen at different times of the year. Just remember that solstices are the longest and shortest days of the year, while equinoxes occur when the day and night are equally as long. Regardless of whether it's a solstice or an equinox, there's bound to be a celebration happening somewhere.
And there's one video which shows the rotation and revolution. Showing solstices. See this, why do we have different seasons?
You know that Earth orbits the sun, right? And that it takes a full year for our planet to complete its orbit. Earth also rotates like a slightly tilted spinning top. Earth remains tilted in the same direction all year round as we orbit the sun. So that means the sun's light shines differently on Earth at different times of the year. Let's look at Earth when it's winter in the northern hemisphere. Observe how the North Pole tips away from the sun. This means that sunlight strikes the northern hemisphere at a shallow angle for a short period of time. This is why
Which position is
weather
this?
is generally cool. As Earth orbits the sun, we move towards spring in the northern hemisphere. Now Earth is tilted neither toward nor away from the
These
sun.
are the, this is the equinox position.
About equal in length. As we make our way to the summer months, notice that Earth is still tilted in the same direction, only now on the other side of our orbit. The North Pole is tipping toward the sun. Sunlight strikes the northern hemisphere more directly, and the sun stays in the sky for a longer time. Year to winter, summer days are warmer, and the sun stays in the sky much longer. Notice too that while it's summer in the northern hemisphere, it's winter in the southern hemisphere because of Earth's tilt at the seasons are reversed. We observed how Earth's tilt creates the different seasons throughout the year. How does this affect life? Plant life and other photosynthesizers, we call them primary producers, depend on sunlight. They respond to the changes in the seasons. Earth orbiting satellites measure the amount of carbon dioxide absorbed by these primary producers. Bright regions on this map show where they devour the most carbon dioxide.
How do I remove it? Okay, so we were on one image, no? What were we on? Images. That one I opened. This is to explain Okay. So solstice on June 21st, the Earth is in the position where the North Pole is tilted towards the Sun. On this day, the Sun is overhead at the Tropic of Cancer. This day is known as summer solstice. Southern hemisphere is tilted away from the Sun, experiences winter. On December 22nd, कौन सा position है वो? ये वाला, this side. This side one. So on December 22nd, southern hemisphere is tilted towards the Sun. While the northern hemisphere is tilted away from it. This is known as winter solstice, opposite. It is summer in the southern hemisphere and winter in the northern hemisphere. Then next is equinox, the other two positions where the rays fall directly on the equator. So on 2 days in a year, the sun shines vertically over the equator at an angle of 90 degrees directly. This angle decreases as one moves away from the equator. These days are, which are these days? 21st March, that is spring equinox, which is that this one. Yes, spring equinox, which is on 21st March, and 23rd September, which is autumnal equinox. This one here, autumn equinox. The position, where is it? There are variations in the duration of daylight. Here distinguish between solstice and equinox. Solstice refers to the time when the sun reaches its highest or lowest point in the sky at noon, resulting in the shortest and longest days of the year. So on this particular day, over here, on this particular day, it will be the longest day in the northern hemisphere and the shortest day in the southern hemisphere. And over here, it will be the shortest day in the northern hemisphere and longest day in the southern hemisphere. And equinox refers to the time when the sun crosses the plane of the Earth's equator, making night and day of equal length. So these 2 days, 21st March and 23rd September, days and nights will be of equal length. Word solstice is derived from the Latin word sol, which means sun, and stare, which means to stand still. Equinox derived from equinoctium, noctium, which means equal, and nox means night. Which is a day of solstice? 21st June and 22nd December. And which are the days of equinox?
21st March and 23rd September.
Solstice, when does it happen? Summer and winter. And equinox is the start of spring and autumn, which is a season of spring when all stars are blooming. And autumn is what? Yeah, all the leaves are dry, they're brown and they're falling. Solstice in the day and equinox specific moment in time. Angle of incidence and duration of these. The angle of incidence of the sun's rays and the duration of daylight at different latitudes is given in the table below. Long table. The altitude or the angle of incidence is also measured in degrees. It's there in your text also, or angle of incidence? Yes. In your text, how textbook, how is it written? See that? Only table is calculations won't come. So altitude of the angle of incidence is also measured in degrees. It's calculated by subtracting the value of the latitude in degrees from 90 degrees. The maximum reached at the equator, for example, in the table, see the table, at 66 degrees, 66 degrees 30 minutes north latitude. the angle of incidence would be 90 minus that many degrees, which is 23.30 minutes. Okay, then cycle of seasons. That is the same thing. Cycle of seasons. Solstices and equinoxes are the positions of the earth with respect to sun on given fixed days. They help us to understand how seasons occur and how they are reversed in the northern and southern hemisphere. When it is summer in the northern hemisphere, it's winter in the southern hemisphere. From the given table above, the variations in the altitude of the sun during equinoxes and solstices at given latitudes is observed, and that the duration of day and night varies according to seasons. So this you all remember that okay, when it's summer solstice, the sun's rays are directly on Tropic of Cancer. When it's winter solstice, it's directly on Tropic of Capricorn. As a result of these variations, and when it is equinox, it is all the way. As a result of these variations, seasons are not the same in all parts of the world. In general, there are 4 seasons: spring, summer, autumn, winter. 4 seasons. These 4 seasons generally correspond to the maximum position dates, solstice and equinox, of spring, 21st March, summer, June 21st, and winter, 22nd December in the northern hemisphere. Now, position of June. Now, here each one in detail. Okay, so first is this position of June. How did you zoom it?
Control shift plus.
This plus.
Shift at term 1 plus.
Okay. It's not going. It's the maximum or what?
Must be the maximum.
Okay, check. नहीं हो रहा है ना? Okay, so we are talking about that position on 21st June. It is a summer solstice in the northern hemisphere. The sun's rays fall vertically on the Tropic of Cancer. Duration of sunlight or daytime is increased from 12 hours at the equator to 13 hours and 27 minutes at 23.5 degrees north latitude. Why the duration of hours is increased? Because the sun is towards the Tropic of Cancer in the northern hemisphere. And further to 24 hours at 66.5 degrees north. 24 hours at 66.5 degrees north means 66.5 is the Tropic of it's the Arctic Circle. So there you have 24 hours day on that particular day, because the entire this was see how it is. This is that position, no? So here also you can see this entire Arctic Circle is towards the sun only. This whole thing is towards the sun. So that's why here you will have 24 hours day at the Tropic of Cancer, at the Arctic Circle. And beyond the Arctic Circle, the region experiences 24 hours daylight. Beyond means above that, whatever part is the north. They have 24 hours daylight. This phenomenon is termed as midnight sun in Norway. Is called the land of midnight sun. Norway is called the land of midnight sun, and many tourists flock to Norway to witness this phenomenon. Okay, where you have 24 hours day, you won't have night at that time.
Only day.
Only day. The sun is visible only at a very low height, just above the horizon, and this continues for almost 3 months up to autumnal equinox. After June 21st, the hours of sunlight in the northern hemisphere begin to decrease from 12 hours at the equator to all nights and no days beyond the Arctic Circle. This position can also be observed in the table given. The maximum position is reached on December 21st. Then the position on 23rd December, that is this position here. The sun is vertically overhead the equator. So now it's September we talk about, that's the equinox. September. On 23rd December, the sun is December, why it's written here? On 23rd December, the sun is vertically overhead the equator.
No, ma'am.
Yeah, that's
Because
what.
Capricorn, 23rd December.
Huh. And the days and nights are equal. This is autumn in the northern hemisphere and spring in the southern hemisphere. On 23rd September, this is better read from the book only. See the equinoxes from the text. No? Read it.
On 2 days in a year, the sun shines vertically over the equator at an angle of 90 degrees. This angle decreases as one moves away from the equator. These days are 21st March, spring of equinox,
Spring equinox and vernal equinox.
and 23rd September, autumnal equinox. At the equinox, the days and nights are of equal length throughout the world. On March 21st, it is spring in the northern hemisphere, and on September 23rd, it is autumn. The position is reversed in the southern hemisphere. At the two equinoxes, the sun is at 90 degrees at the equator. As one moves away from the equator, the altitude of the sun decreases. When the apparent northwards movement of the sun continues up to June 21st, summer solstice, there are variations in the duration of daylight.
Then twilight in you have that?
Twilight
In low and high zones.
latitude.
Latitudes. Read from there.
It is clear that there are generally great seasonal contrasts.
You all have not got the textbook on. निकालने को बड़ा तकलीफ हो रहा है इससे. Where is your book?
Contrast as one moves from the
Boys,
equator.
girls, who didn't bring? You didn't bring, right? You're having so many books, so many classes, maths, English, Hindi, geography, history. Only 2 subjects you have, no? How do you go to school then? But then you carry your notebooks, carry your textbooks, because school textbooks are in the textbooks. That's all I'm asking you to carry, no? So if you're carrying your textbooks, it's like carrying 4 textbooks. See, he brings his textbook, but he doesn't remove it. And you don't bring it. हाँ? देखो पहले ही समझा था कि तेरे पास textbook है. क्यों बोल? When he removed his textbook, तेरा कुछ ऐसे चालू हुआ, but then तेरा मन नहीं किया निकालने को, correct? हाँ? Why you didn't remove it at that time?
The variations in the amount of heat received at different parts of the earth during the year depends on the inclination of the sun's rays. The difference through is best explained by vertical and slanting rays of the sun. We should also remember that no place on earth has abrupt change from vertical to slanting rays or vice versa.
Abrupt means suddenly.
During sunrise and sunset, through the sun is below the horizon. We experience a diffused light. Much of this light is a reflection by clouds and dust particles present in the atmosphere. This period of diffused light sunset and complete darkness is called dusk or twilight.
What are you talking about? What is dusk and twilight?
Dusk is the time when sunrise and twilight is the time when sunset. Between
No.
rise and sunset.
Correct. There's like you have dusk and dawn. Dawn is one, dawn is the morning, dusk is the evening.
And that between sunrise and full daylight is called dawn. This phenomenon of dawn and dusk is experienced more in temperate regions. Duration of twilight has considerable influence on season. The duration of twilight is large beyond 50 degrees latitude, and in polar region, twilight lasts for as much as 7 weeks at a stretch. The twilight continues as long as sun is 18 degrees below the horizon. Its duration is 1 hour and 12 minutes at the equator. It goes on increasing towards the pole. At the poles, the duration is 50 days long. During the 3 months of alternating period of day and night, this is because the period during which the refracted light is received at the equator is short as the sun rises and sets in a vertical path there. On the other hand, in temperate latitude, the period of refracted light is longer as the sun rises and sets in an oblique path. It is much longer at the poles. That is why the winter darkness there is only twilight.
Correct. It's oblique means how are the rays of the sun? They are slanted. Okay. Terms to remember: axis, imaginary central line about which a body rotates. Rotation, the spinning of the earth or a planet. It's there in the resource book. On its axis. The resource book is there. Revolution, the journey of the earth or a planet. Page number 34. Revolution, rotation, the spinning of the earth or a planet on its axis. हंस रहे क्योंकि तेरा बुक भी खुला हुआ नहीं था. ये बुक नोटबुक तो टेक्स्ट बुक तो देखो निकालने का इंटरेस्ट नहीं था. ये जो बाहर था that was also not opened on that page.
I was on that.
I'm talking about this now. Total तो निकल पाया तो किसी ने निकाला. Yeah, switch. Then solstice, revolution, the journey of a planet around the sun. Solstice. Coming there straight, is it?
Yeah, you're straight.
So solstice, either of the 2 days, summer solstice, June 21st, and winter solstice, December 22nd, when the sun is at its greatest height, greatest distance from the equator. Equinox, either of the 2 days, March 21st and September 23rd in a year, when days and nights are equal throughout the globe. Twilight, the brief period between sunset and complete darkness. Mark your textbook and your resource book. That worksheet full you'll do. Okay, that's page 40. There are 7 questions. And over here, answer the following. There are 4 things, okay? Classwork and homework. So this homework part you do full. So that's 5 and 2 releases. You do only the homework part full.
And the worksheet.
Worksheet also. Worksheet you will do here only. This you will do in your notebooks.
Now, no, on text.
Of this, what you do? अभी इसके जो notes बनाने हैं, whatever you make till now, leave it as it is of this chapter. Now you start with the question answers. Because if you are writing the notes, do you have how much time will you all take to complete the notes? You all will take at least
5-10 minutes.
5-10 minutes. You all will finish. You girls,
Yeah. Yes, one.
huh? You all boys का 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Sure. 10 minutes. बोल रहे हैं boys ना. Okay. So 10 minutes, finish it, and then do one thing, no? Skip this homework part of the notebook. Only do this worksheet. No? Don't do. So in this you will have your notes in the notebook, and in this you will have this the worksheet. Okay. Okay, whatever you have to study, study. And the previous one no, that I gave you, I want somebody to check of everyone, especially the boys. The girls, I think, will do it.
Got it. Next class.
Okay, Gauri, you check.
Next
class. Next class. Whether all your work is, I'm giving you one more chance. Huh? All three of you. Okay, so Gauri will check your work. Huh? You are good. What is her name? Jan. So you were saying Gauri, right? Okay. So Gauri will check your work. All the questions see properly. You can't tell her later. Oh, मेरे को पता नहीं था ये करना है नहीं करना. पहले check करना. Okay. Before I come, check and to see the eye maintenance. Whoever is not done, girls will do. Don't need to check of the girls. The boys who will. Not bringing the board. First he say, 10 minutes it will be done. Do at least the worksheet part.
Can you do worksheet
Do it. And one more thing. Sorry, answers, whatever they are writing, doesn't have to be, it has to be neat, good handwriting, and no short answers. They will say, हाँ मेरे 10 हो गए, and they write one sentence for everything. So no shortcuts. So guys smiling, you'll do like that only, no? क्या कर रहे हैं अभी? गूगल
worksheet first question they have asked about the give very two effects of rotation. In worksheet, they have asked, give any two effects of rotation. So can we write only day and night, sunset and sunrise, like that? Or do we have to like explain everything plus subtitles?
You need to explain, but at least write the complete sentence.
Yeah.
Two effects of rotation are the occurrence of like that.
Yeah.
What is there to explain? How can you explain that further? What are you asking? क्या पूछ रहे हैं? आंसर पूछ रहे हैं? देखने दे उसको, कोई ढूंढने दे उसको, बहुत आदत है। देखो ही कुछ रेडी नहीं। Question answers and notes also. This chapter you will have written notes. Previous one also you wrote, no? They cannot leave anything. As of next class, everything till date should be covered. Shift to उधर shift होगा दूसरे bench पे। ना करो। Geography test is not done.
No,
This
just
Sunday.
Coming Monday.
Yeah.
Any doubts? Which first chapter?
Yes.
Questions will be coming from only model.
Fourth.
Both.
But you're smiling. From anywhere it will come and from everywhere it will come. From both the places. मतलब यूपी के टेस्ट के लिए यूपी बुक से पढ़ोगे, बोर्ड के लिए टेक्स्ट बुक से पढ़ोगे, सेम always. Any doubts you have? Clear it. No. No doubts. It was not there, no?
But yeah, actually we had a class test for this. For that we have to study that chapter. Yeah. Yes.
You were also. Clear, everything is clear. get good marks out of 15. It will be out of 15, no, 20.
20.
If it's out of 20, the least that I can accept is okay, 18. The least. So all of you have to get 18, 19 or 20. That's
Or
it.
18 and a half, 19 and a half.
Or 18 and a half, 19 and a half,
17
no, 17, no 17 and a half. 18, 18 and a half, 19, 19 and a half, 25 options you'll have. See,
What if someone gets 17 and a half?
not good, not done. 18.
What
Minimum
if
18.
someone gets 15?
Not good, not done. 15, see, why? Because you have only one chapter. What? What is he saying?
What if someone gets 10 marks?
Bad out.
Single digit.
Out of question. Because see, that first chapter is extremely easy, and when you're giving only one chapter,
In school only it is not coming.
I think, in school, your board, your main exam will have it, no, your assessment will have it, no. What, no? How can this chapter not be there? It has to be there, it will be there.
It is.
Huh?
It is there.
It is, then, yeah, Barbara is saying it's not the main, it's not, it, in your test it's not there. Study well. Minimum 18, even those who are not there, huh? Minimum 18. कुछ डाउट है तो अब भी क्लियर कर लो कि मेरा 2 मार्क जाने वाला है, यहाँ पे मेरे को नहीं समझा. I'll give you those that full explanation. But don't lose marks.
You will be correcting.
No, I won't be correcting. If I correct, I will take your marks. No, I will not correct. I will not correct. So you better study nicely. Huh? Whoever will check, she or he will do a good justified correction. Huh?
None of the teachers were teaching the correct.
No, just check, but then different papers. So irrespective of who is correcting, if you write nicely, you will get full marks. If you make mistakes, obviously your marks will be cut. So ऐसा कुछ don't study in a way where you lose marks. वो perfectly पढ़ना है, ये अच्छे से पढ़ना है, marks जा रही. This is your first geography test, no? And the first and the easiest chapter then. Second, third to be then. That's why I was so late. Yeah. Second and third are lengthy, no? Second is the latitude longitude. That is lengthy. And the third is revolution rotation. That is lengthy. First one is of series. Neil Parsons. What is this? It must be of these ICSE, 10th ICSE was sitting before this.
अरे देना पड़ेगा पैसा नहीं है.
अरे हम
नाम देता हूँ.
Who's this it?
हमें Ironic.
Yeah. You want to go?
Yeah, I'll go. So waiting me. So कल का नहीं ऐसे तो बट होकर आ गया होगा मतलब
अरे 18 में तो आज है
नहीं आज 19
सॉरी
तो होकर आ गया होगा
कल था 18
फिर कैसे हुई
मुझे अगर कल का है इसके लिए अभी मैं बहुत एक्साइटेड
कौन बोल
इसे कल का है ना
हाँ इसे कल का
हाँ even I thought it's
आज
only
एक
tomorrow.
मिनट
Actually, what he said is not wrong. Also, कल का है means yesterday is it is of yesterday.
इसे कल का
हाँ मुझे
वही
लगा
कल का है।
tomorrow.
I thought tomorrow I was like everyone said
And he's not even saying अरे तुम लोग क्यों excited हो रहे हो गया. Like I told her and you want to go or what? Still no response.
असं काय नाही ते वर दाखवायला
चलो कंप्लीट करो. Here what you can do is just make it streamline and make it like this. So makes good. She's on ICSE, she's made on note. Boys, this is for y'all only to see. Yes, no, man. ये तो देखेगा ही नहीं घंटा. See here, so nice it looks so neat. पढ़ाई करना होगा जो now why? Only. The handwriting में कैसे दिख रहा है? Like the good handwriting.
long answer that question make up long answer that question make up
Why are you thinking of what may come, what may not come? You study the full chapter and come. Maybe you will get a 5-mark answer or the 8th standards had one question which was of 5 marks. What he's asking now? Huh? No. Right now. What happened to you? Why did you go back? Huh? So either you went there again, see you're talking. And they were answering that longest day of southern hemisphere. Which is the longest day of southern hemisphere. Come over here. Don't answer question. Is it not? Read Solstices properly, answer it here. The explain किया कभी So in that answer you have to explain also which is the longest day of the southern hemisphere. So which is that day and on what position does that happen? Longest day in the southern hemisphere they asked. Longest day in the southern hemisphere. Yes, sir. Southern hemisphere, no?
Day long.
क्या क्या देख रहा है देखने के बाद से तो ट्यूबलाइट नहीं चल रहा है क्या हो रहा है चश्मा है Why are you not able to see? If your eyes check the chashma पहनना है तो कैसे? Did you get that answer still? How much left? Now what is it? Completed message. Stay upper song, very easy like the day. One needs to be good. What happened? Photo managers. They're showing him over. He's seeing from behind.
She was writing like this. No one gets.
Now, how is not seen?
I was saying,
And that's
not
what
for copying best I was saying. I was saying.
stand all of them. The girls have done also, no? Which one is it? And they'll complete it. There's no problem. Their notes also complete, na? What? Next week you have to complete everything, huh? Both the chapters.
What we have
notes.
to write in notes?
Done.
Done. What? Showing समझता है पीछे से चोरी करके देख रहा है चोर की आंखों में चोरी नजर आती है समझता है ये सब तो समझ What time?
2 minutes.
Is Rakhi smiling? Boys don't want to go home, see? They sincere, that's it. And keep up properly, everything that has to be completed. Dekna at the last moment they say, I didn't know this also a word. They all sorts of excuses for not doing this. Now see, he's asking notes. क्या लिखते हो? She's writing C. All these things help, yeah. When you write, Full 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, all have to get 20, 20, 20, okay? All have to get 20 or 20.
We'll try.
Try, yes, try your best. Minimum 18, okay, don't forget that. Boys.
Minimum
18.
I'm on to I wrote the question so that I know what to write.
You know?
The question to read that. So that I know that what can they ask.
Study from both the cases, from the resource book and the textbook.
Thank you very much. Compliment.
What's the judging?